This is going to be like a girl show tonight because we have all ladies on tonight and they are powerhouses. They are powerhouses. So we have two special women tonight. One of them left her job in 2019 thinking that she was going to have this amazing hiatus and she was going to, just enjoy life before she went back into the workforce. And as most of us know, life tends to never go as planned and throw us all kinds of curveballs that we didn't see coming. And that's exactly what happened for one of our guests tonight, Melanie. She was completely thrust unexpectedly into the role of full-time caregiver for her mother when her mom was diagnosed with ALS pretty quickly after she left her job and thought that her little vacation hiatus was going to begin. She quickly learned what an ALS diagnosis meant to not only her mom, but to herself and to her family and all of those around her. She was the primary caregiver for her mom through every step of the way. And now she has become sort of a caregiving advocate, which is really amazing. And she's such a great resource to others that are walking in her shoes now or that are starting their journey or wherever they are in that journey. She's just been such a great resource to them. And she continues to share her story to help other caregivers navigate through whatever area they are in their journey. So she is such an amazing woman. She has been through so much, and she's here tonight to share her story along with her care service coordinator, Kellie, who we are lucky enough to have on our chapter. I'm so excited that we have her. So Kellie's love for helping others has led her to an incredible career of over 20 years as a licensed clinical social worker. She has a background in managing medical social workers in the hospital, as well as starting and running an advanced care planning and palliative care program for the hospital systems. And now, if all of that weren't enough, because she probably just had nothing but downtime with all of those things going on in her life, she even started her own private practice. And this January will mark Kellie's 6th year with our chapter, the ALS Association's Greater Chicago chapter. We're so lucky to have her as part of the family, and we are so lucky to have both of these women with us tonight. So please welcome Melanie Sprouts and Kellie Branch Dirks. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
I love it. How perfect was the timing on your shirt, too, by the way?
I kind of thought of that, and I was not intentionally being a subliminal billboard for this evening of that every 90 minutes someone's diagnosed and every 90 minutes someone passes away. But how perfect for that. We want to provide 90 meals, so we need $90 donations.
I mean, I couldn't have teed that up any better. And this was a complete happy accident that this happened. This was just another one of those times. Yeah.
So, Sam, make sure I'm in frame all evening.
I love that. Producer extraordinaire will have that covered. I mean, that is, from now on, that's just how I will address her. She's no longer Sam. She's just always producer extraordinaire because that is exactly what she is. But yes, 90-90 is so important. So I love that. So now people will be reminded throughout the entire show, we want to raise $90 to feed 90 families. So we can make that happen, I'm sure.
Arrow's doing this all night.
We do. I love that. Well, let's dive right into this because Melanie, I kind of teased people telling this little tidbit of a story because not that it's a great story, but what you've done with this has been so great. So first of all, tell us about your mom.
My mom was amazing. She was like the super mom. She was the mom that everybody wanted to come to our house to have dinner. She, took care of my brother and I. I don't know. How do you sum up like the most? I don't know. She wasn't just my mom. She was my best friend. So I don't know how you sum up the most important person in your life.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think I don't know you that well yet, but just from the brief interaction we've had, I mean, it makes so much sense to me that your mom was that incredible because you have been so amazing and what you've turned the situation into and what you've done with it has been so amazing. So it must run in the family. This is where it's coming from. It makes perfect sense that your mom is so incredible because you're pretty darn incredible. So tell us a little bit about this journey. So you left your job and then life just went all kinds of crazy.
Yeah, and it even goes back a little farther than that. My dad was diagnosed with cancer in 2017, and then passed away 20 months later. So that was end of 2018, and then August of 2019, I quit my job. I was burnt out. It was very demanding, very long hours. And I needed a break. So I took some time off, and I was just gonna hang out with my mom and lounge by the pool. And then, after a few weeks, I would go ahead and look for a job. Right after that, she had a stroke. My mom had a small stroke, and it affected her speech and swallowing. So they started her in speech therapy, and after 3 or 4 months of that, her speech therapist just had some doubts about the way things were progressing, and she suggested going back to the neurologist. The neurologist sent us downtown Chicago to the Rush University Medical Center, and on her first visit, the neurologist came in and said, "You're everything that's going on with you is consistent with ALS." And I know that is not the usual progression that people experience when they're getting diagnosed with ALS. I realize that a lot of people go for tests for months or years, and it was literally on her first visit. They said this is what's going on, and she went back for follow-up visits, and after they did the test, they said, yes, this confirms that it was ALS, and that was sort of because at first we were like, that's such a dramatic diagnosis. They can't just know that just from taking your medical history and reading the notes from your other doctors. But then they did the tests, and they said, yeah, this is what's happening. So that threw us into a whole new thing. And since I wasn't working, I was able to go full-time caregiver all the time. And it was, hard, but I'm ultimately glad that I was very fortunate to be in the position to be able to do that.
I mean, that's what I was going to ask you. What is it like to get thrown into that immediately? There was no warning. There was no preparation. All of a sudden you wake up one day and you find yourself in this new role in life.
Yeah. And a new role that you don't have any training or background for. Mm-hmm. I really felt out of my depth for a while. Just not knowing what questions to ask, because obviously in the beginning she didn't need full-time care. It wasn't like, it wasn't like I needed to be by her side all the time, but there were still so many questions for doctors and questions I didn't even know I should be asking. And that was a part actually where the ALS Association was really helpful, because Gemma was our care services coordinator, and she was really helpful in clarifying some of that, like what happens next and who should we talk to, and is this worth calling the doctor? Because I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning. And in caregiving, I think there's no benchmarks. It's not like doing your corporate job where you have your key performance indicators, and what goals you're supposed to be hitting. In caregiving, there's nothing like that. It's just you sort of asking yourself, am I doing a good job? Am I doing the right thing? Am I taking care of my mom the right way? So it was helpful to have Gemma and Kellie to talk to about that, and know that there is no right way. That's what I learned.
I think that's the best lesson, and I want to come back to that. But I want to remind people, because I was even shocked to learn this, and I want to make the point that other people know this. Not only did you get thrown into this role that you didn't expect, you didn't have any idea what it entailed yet, but this all went down when this whole pandemic hit. So on top of that, and so the people that have watched the show that have heard me say this a million times, and you've heard our guests say, the ALS Association, our chapter is bar none when it comes to our care services team. To Kellie, when you guys hear some of the things that Kellie is about to tell you, I mean, your minds will be blown, the things that they do and the impact they make. But a lot of that was at the time so hands-on. They were doing clinics, they were doing things in person, they were there to meet you, they were there to get you to appointments. And then all of a sudden, Melanie, you find yourself in the middle of this and the world shuts down. And now think of everyone, put yourself in this position. everyone was scared. We didn't know what was happening. The world shut down, but even more so now, you have somebody with ALS who is completely at risk and susceptible more so than the average person to germs. So you have to be even more careful. So you got extra thrown on your plate. How did all of that play out in your life with all of this pandemic craziness?
Yeah, it was, I've kind of described it as there was like this small family catastrophe happening at the exact same time that there was this major global catastrophe happening. So, we were scared. I mean, I think that's a thing that maybe we forget looking back to, March of like, my mom was diagnosed 2 weeks before Illinois went into like shutdown. So, we were scared. We were confused. Everybody was sad and trying to adjust. And then all of the extra, ALS confusion. I have such a vivid memory of when the respiratory technician came to the house to deliver suction device, maybe, I don't know, one of the pieces of equipment that she got early on. The woman like suited up in a full like spacesuit before, like in the driveway. Like I watched her from the window, and she put on this whole gear with the respirator and the whole thing. And she came into the house, and she was trying to be quick, obviously. So we got a very sort of very quick rundown of how to use the equipment. But she wanted to get in and out, obviously, as quick as she could. But it's something that I remember in my mind so vividly, that people weren't able to come into the house. My brother and his family live about 40 minutes from us, and we normally see each other all the time, at least once a week. But they weren't. My brother is a family practice doctor, so he sees patients all the time, and obviously doesn't, he didn't want to be the one to bring COVID home to my mom. So, we were able to get together outside at a distance. And then in the winter, they would come and stand in the garage with a space heater, and we would stand in the laundry room with the door open and our winter coats on. And that's how we had to visit in the winter, because we didn't want to run the risk of any of us getting sick, but especially my mom. And my brother and his family did end up getting COVID, and he was very sick. He was in the hospital for 3 days, which was a whole other, it was a very scary, it was very, very scary, like all the time. And I think maybe we've kind of forgotten how scary it was in the beginning.
Okay. I mean, Kellie, because since we are talking about this, because you're right, I think things have changed a lot lately, and maybe we are forgetting what it was like when all of that craziness started. But specifically for the chapter, for the organization, because I'm so proud of the way they handled this. A lot was thrown at us, and all of these services that we provide, I think the strength in them at first, what I thought was the strength, was that they were in person. We're getting together for these meetings, to be there for each other, that connection that was so important. When all of that was taken away, Kellie, what did you see from the chapter side? How did they handle the situation, and what were your patients sort of going through despite all of this?
So one of the things that we know about caregiving is that people who are not medically trained, who have no concept of these words and these terms and these machines that are being thrown at them, they have no idea what to do with this stuff. But yet caregivers put on this brave front. They are amazing advocates, and they show strength that I'm in awe of every day, and they make it happen. Even though 99% of the time they have no idea what they're doing, they say, but they sure do a darn good job of putting it all together and taking care of their loved one. But normally they have the clinic to go to, or they have someone who can train them on it. We knew that still needed to happen for them. So within a week or two, we quickly put in place the ability to bring it to them virtually. So instead of canceling programs, we actually added programs. So we added a caregiver support group. We knew that with COVID, the stress that caregivers already have of being put in the role of nurse, short order cook, bather, financial management expert, grocery shopper, housekeeper. They were also now PPE expert and sanitizer, and they were not even getting to do the social things, the few social things that they were able to do. They were cut off from their support groups, which was the little bit of support they got from other people walking in their shoes. So we put together a caregiver support group that's just for the caregivers because now their job was 10 times harder. So every second Wednesday of the month, we have a support group that is just for the caregivers. And honestly, the people that come, it's become a nice little social group. I think they look forward to it. I just sit back, I just log on and they kind of do their own little thing. They're their own little family, and everyone is welcome to come. We automatically turned our support groups into virtual so that they didn't lose that connection. And it's kind of nice because it made it available for patients who weren't coming to support group, and their caregivers started showing up. So it was actually bringing support to those who weren't getting it before. Our educational events we made available in kind of a virtual form as well, so they didn't learn they didn't lose those nuggets of knowledge that they had come to rely on. And most importantly, our boot camp that you mentioned that's coming up on the 13th, that boot camp originated from caregivers saying, I need help. All this stuff gets dropped off. I don't have time to let my guard down and say I don't know what I'm doing. So we had created this hands-on boot camp so that they could come and touch and feel and ask questions. We couldn't take that away from them. So we made it virtual so they can still get that, because just like Melanie, people are still being diagnosed. A pandemic doesn't stop ALS. And I think we're actually doing it better because we're able to bring in experts and they record their segments, and the knowledge is even better, I think. So we've also added an advanced boot camp for those who wanted kind of more the end of life experience with ALS. So we've added.
You know what? I think this is just such a huge testimony to how incredible this chapter is because, like you said, ALS diagnosis, they don't stop with the pandemic. Whatever the world throws at us, this disease isn't stopping. And you guys stepped up to the plate instantly and were able to take this tragedy. And my favorite thing, tragedy to triumph, you guys did that. And the silver lining in all of this is now hearing you say that I love this, that now these programs are better. They're better, they're stronger, they're reaching more people. There's the silver lining in all this garbage that was happening in the world. So that's really awesome. So, go ahead, Kelly.
I was going to say, and we made the programs available not just to people in our service area, we've made them available to people in other service areas, other states, just because we know that there's people hurting beyond just our service area.
I love that. You guys are just helping everyone, which is so exciting. And you're inspiring people too, by the way. I don't know if you saw those comments that were popping up, but Donna Clax chimes in to let us know that both of you guys are such an inspiration. I love when you're getting love from the viewers. And then, I don't know, the Rickies, they said that they love you guys. They're sending hugs from Mike and Carrie. I love it. So much love. Keep it coming, guys. Let us know if you're watching. Let us know if you have anything you want to say to the girls, if you have any questions that you're just curious and dying to know, put them in the comment section because we'll definitely ask them. We'll pay attention. Sam's really good about that, keeping us on track with that. Now, Melanie, you'd brought up that I love that one of the most valuable lessons that you learned was that there is no right or wrong way. Like there is no wrong way, I should say, that what you're doing, you were doing the best you could do and you were figuring it out along the way. But who did you turn to? I mean, once you got through this, how did you find your way sort of to the chapter, or who did you turn to help you along the way?
You know, the only person from the ALS Association that I have met physically in person was Peggy at my mom's first clinic appointment. And then everything was shut down, and so everybody else that I've interacted with, it's been virtual. And I think, she handed us that folder that said, here's when the support groups are, and here's the resource, and here's Gemma's email address, and my mom wanted nothing to do with that. She as she said, she was not a joiner. So she was not going to be getting up on Saturday mornings to do support group.
Okay.
But I, from the first month, I think, said, I'm going to do this caregiver support group. It can't hurt. And then, right away, I think right from the beginning, it was super helpful to hear from other people who were farther along in their ALS journey. And I think in that first session was when Kellie started hammering home that you're not in charge. Your loved one makes the decisions. It's their journey, and they get to choose how they want to fight or not fight or live, and they get to decide what's important. And it took, I think, a few months to really get that hammered home to really understand that. But I think part of it too was, my mom had used the word resigned with one of maybe the social worker at the clinic, that after the diagnosis she was resigned to what was happening. And I don't know that that's the right word, because that, I think, implies some sort of surrender, giving up, and I don't think that was necessarily the case. I think it was more of a like a matter of factness that this is happening, and there's no point in being angry or sad all the time. Like, let's just make the best of what we have, and what, the time we're spending together. And the rest of those, there wasn't time for negative feelings. And I felt that way too. I mean, that sort of rubbed off on me, that there wasn't, literally, physically, there was not time to have emotions. But I didn't want to spend that time with her being sad or arguing or anything else. It was just, let's forward motion all the time.
Oh, Kathy Pep just chimed in, and Melanie, she's commending you on all that you have done and had to deal with.
Thank you.
People love you guys. Before we keep diving into this more, Kellie, I want you to talk to people, because if they're new to this, or maybe haven't been around ALS, and we keep talking about care services, I don't know that people really understand what that is. So you have had, such an amazing time with our chapter doing this. Can you explain to people what care service coordinators, what they are, sort of what your role is, and what the significance of this is?
I like to say that your care service coordinator is your partner through your journey, to be as much involved as you want them to be, but not to be in your business. Often when you get diagnosed, you go to clinic, you get all this information, your head is spinning after you hear those words ALS, and you're given brochures and this and appointments and this, and you get home and you realize you heard nothing after you heard the words ALS, but yet you have this folder with this name of someone with the ALS Association. Your care service coordinator is that person that you can reach out to in between clinic visits, to answer questions, to ask for help, to say, I don't know, is this related to my ALS? Where do I start? Often people in the community haven't dealt with anybody with ALS. We're that person who can help advocate, who can help educate, who can help support, who can help connect you with equipment. All of our services are free of charge. So we're that one free thing in healthcare. Use us to help support you and your family to take some of the burden off of you. You're dealing with so much already, whether you're the caregiver or the patient. Let us be your partner and reduce some of the stress for you. Some of the stresses you already have as a caregiver are, you're dealing with so much lack of control and uncertainty about what is happening, where to go, what to do. We have a lot of those answers because this is what we do. And you can either spend a lot of time calling the wrong places, following a lot of false leads, or just kind of come to us and we can send you in the right direction. You've lost a lot of support because you're kind of cut off from your resources, or a lot of times people just don't call because they don't know what to say. So they don't come around just because of uncomfortability. Reach out to us because we have the support systems available to connect you with people. Some of the other sources of caregiver stress come from, that fear of things getting worse. And so you shut yourself off, which is the worst thing to do. Connect with us. Let's help validate what you're going through, normalize what you're going through, and help you with the process. One of our other supports that we have is counseling. We offer some free counseling to patients and the caregivers because we understand this is a mental health issue for some people too. And we know you can't get out for that. So we have it available to bring it to you via telehealth because you're in anticipatory grief along the way too. We also know that you're kind of going through that feeling of, I don't know if I have what it takes to do this. That feeling pops up all the time as a caregiver. And sometimes you just need someone to talk to that understands that. And nobody really understands that unless they understand ALS. Your care service coordinator can be there for you too. We're willing to listen. And sometimes you just need that person.
Just to know you're not alone. And yeah, Melanie, you're nodding your head. I mean, these are all things you've experienced, right? Everything Kelly's saying.
Definitely. I think something that Kellie said there right at the end, that other people want to help, but they don't really know what it is to be an ALS caregiver or to be a patient of ALS unless they've gone through that. Like a cancer support group is a very different thing from an ALS support group because it's such a different kind of experience. And so, yeah, I think there were times where people who were trying to be helpful, would just sort of say something that, okay, well, it's no amount of, exercise and eating the right things is gonna make this better. So, yeah, it was always helpful to talk to other caregivers and to Kellie and to Gemma and people who are experienced with ALS, because, even my mom's primary care doctor, I think he said in like 20 years of being a doctor, he had 2 ALS patients. Like he's not an expert. He doesn't know anything about what this, what this experience would be like for her. So I think the support group was super helpful because right away from the first visit, there's other people who are at all different stages, but able to sort of give you some insight into what to expect, and then as you're there for longer, then you become that person, and you are suddenly the expert and can say the soothing things to the new people. Absolutely, ALS is so specific, and I think that's why these specific supports are such a valuable resource.
You've stepped into that role now, Melanie. You are unfortunately one of the experts now that's being able to just advise and be there and connect with people to let them know that they're not alone and you know exactly what they're going through.
I also want to say that our caregiver support group is, it's not all serious and what to expect when you have ALS. It's, sometimes there's tears, but there's always a lot of laughing and goofing around.
Shh.
I love that. Kelly's like, don't let the secret out. I do love that though, because it's the situation and you're in it and you guys are finding ways to sort of make the best of it and connect and have those moments to just be family and enjoy and laugh and joke around.
Humor is an important part of mental health. And as I tell everybody, you have to have those big, hearty belly laughs. And science has shown that the chemical makeup of tears from laughter are different than the chemical makeup of tears from crying, because laughter changes the body so significantly. So even though people think they shouldn't laugh whenever there's sad things going on, you need to laugh. You need joy in your life. And I darn well make sure that we have laughter in our groups.
I love this. So for all you people that tell me I laugh too much, I will refer you to Kellie. She will provide you with the science on why this is an important thing. I love that. Well, and Kellie, you brought up a good thing too, because I wanted to touch on this a little bit. You were talking about the mental health and how the laughter is so important for that. Right now we're very aware of how important mental health is. So, I mean, Melanie, I was going to ask you this, but the same thing goes for you, Kellie, because you're day in and day out. This is all heavy stuff. What do you girls do to sort of keep your mind, to keep your body, your physical, your mental, to keep all of those things at their best so that you can be your best for these roles that you guys have to take on?
So, positive interventions for caregivers, because caregivers are primed for depression and anxiety. They're going through anticipatory grief every day. If they've had past traumas, depending what that trauma was, situations they're experiencing could trigger trauma reactions. So if they have mental health issues already, they of course can be exacerbated. So I encourage caregivers to be connected with counseling, because you're going through a lot. Additionally, in addition to counseling, routine is important. Having consistency helps us stabilize what we're going through, helps us have a sense of familiarity. Of course, with ALS, nothing is consistent, but having some sense of routine, allowing help in, allowing respite caregivers in, participating in physical activity, because physical activity does a couple of things. It allows us to cope with anxiety. It's a great release for that. It releases the natural happy endorphins in our body. So it helps counterbalance the depression we might be experiencing. Of course, nutrition, because as caregivers, we make sure our loved one eats, but we forget to take care of our own bodies. And then, of course, that makes us susceptible to getting sick ourselves. If we don't have good self-care and are going to the doctor, we're not going to be able to take care of our loved ones. Another one is making time to be sure that you do connect with your friends and family. Maybe you can't go out to lunch, but there's this thing called the phone and video chat.
What is that?
I'm sure you've all heard of them, but we can still keep connections going. And that's really important for caregivers to have. Because if you cut yourself off, you're not going to know who you are when your loved one's journey comes to an end. And it's going to make that transition even harder. And I know we don't like to talk about it, but it's important. You have to maintain a sense of who you are. So maintaining a hobby, maintaining an interest, accepting help. And one thing I emphasize in caregiver group is keep a list of what you need, so that when someone says, is there anything I can do? Yeah, which one do you want to do? Don't ever say no to free help. And if they didn't mean it, they won't ask again.
I love that. Melanie, how about you? What are some of your go-tos? What do you do to keep yourself in your best sort of mental and physical shape?
Yeah, I think in addition to I think eating right, exercising, getting sleep. I think those things are, you're halfway there. When a couple other things. So one of the things that helped me deal with some of my anxiety before my mom was diagnosed with her ALS, but after she had her stroke. I signed up for a CPR and first aid class at the Park District, and it helped. Like it just helped me know what if what the signs were, if she was having another stroke, if she was having some sort of cardiac problem, if there was anything wrong, and it gave me some sense of what to do. And that all ended up being really helpful because as her ALS progressed and she fell down, suddenly I knew the right things for checking to make sure she didn't have a concussion, or, when you need to get stitches and when a Band-Aid is going to be okay. So it was actually really helpful to sort of have some, just that little bit of medical confidence, so that I felt like when the emergency arises, I will be prepared. I think that helps tamp down some of the anxiety. And then the other thing that was sort of a blessing of COVID, which is an awful thing to say. There's no blessings of COVID. There's no benefits. But one of the things that worked out well, timing wise for us, we love the theater, we love to travel, we love eating out in restaurants. So travel was not an option, but all the restaurants started doing parking lot pickup. So that was great. We were still able to get some of our favorite food. And then all the theaters started streaming their shows and putting all kinds of different different things online. So we were able to see plays and musicals and ballets and concerts and choirs and all those things that, after my mom was sort of homebound, she wasn't going to get to go to see any of those things, but all of a sudden it was right there in our living room. So that was special to be able to, continue to support some of the theaters that we love, and to get to sort of experience still some of their work. That kind of made an awful situation have a little bit of normalcy in it.
Yes.
I love that. And actually, how did I not know this was happening, by the way? And let's champion, girls, let's lead this charge. We're going to champion on behalf of all of the arts things. Let's keep this going, because I guess I never thought of that. There are so many people out there that can't physically get to the theater. Let's keep that going. Let's keep doing these virtual things so that people can see it.
A lot of it's ended now that COVID is over and the theaters open back up, but you can find what is available on Facebook events.
Okay.
But the museums were doing it all too. Like you could go to the Louvre and those kind of places, but it was only during COVID.
There should be some kind of awesome package for the people that can't have those experiences even outside of COVID. We'll find out. I'll find out who I've got to talk to about this.
You can do some things. Anybody who's on Facebook, you can go to events and you can still do some tours, but they're charging for them now, and it's like $35, $30, but it's not as significant, and the plays are not on there anymore.
Darn it. That's okay. We'll find a way to make it happen. I know that we're superheroes. We'll work our magic. So Kellie, though, I want to get to, before we run out of time, I had so many questions I want to ask both of you girls, and I don't know where the time goes. I blink and it just flies by. So I feel like I keep saying this to every guest because there's so much I want to dive into. I have to have you girls back because I have so many other topics I want to talk about. But Kellie, I think it's really important. I love that you were able to break it down for us and let us know what care service does and how important it is. But what are some of your best moments? What are some of the things that really stand out in your mind from your almost 6-year time with the chapter?
So, usually being a social worker, We're the people who say no, say I can't, are considered the people that take the babies away. And it's really hard. Um, but in this role, one of the things I enjoy the most is I'm able to do things that, for at least a fleeting moment, make someone's life a little bit better. And as a social worker, we're not always able to do that because we're limited so much in what we can do. So there's two things. Well, there's three things. Okay, so there's three things. I'll say them quick because I have so many. One is I had a lady who lived with her husband. And one day I went to call the visitor and I found out she was at an assisted living. And I went out there and I'm like, what the heck are you doing here? Because my people know I'm real. I'll just call a spade a spade. And she said, well, I can't get in the tub anymore. And I said, so get a contractor. Let's meet at your house and get this remodeled. And lo and behold, we did that and we got her home. And she just cried and said, thank you if it wasn't for you. And then a couple of years later, it was just a good thing. And she was able to be home for 2 more years with her husband. So that was wonderful. Another one is a lady who was like, can you meet me with her at the realtor at a house? And I was there and I was like, what are you doing? She goes, well, I think I have to move. And I'm like, why? Do you want to? And she's like, well, no, but don't I have to because of ALS? I'm like, no, we can accommodate things there. And she didn't move. Patient recently passed away, and she's very thankful she didn't have to move. And I'm glad I could help not having her to do that. And then the best one is a patient who got her diagnosis, was going to give everything away, and had this bucket list for this amazing trip around the world. And then finally decided, I was like, what are you doing? You can still go on this trip if you want to do this. We'll make this happen. And she got to go on her amazing trip to the countries around the world and had her trip and to the Great Wall of China, a couple of other places. And then when she got back, she passed away 2 months later. And her son had his trip and got to do his bucket list with his mom. So
these things get me all like warm and tingly and butterflied because I think it's an underestimation to even say the impact of these things. You can tell the story in seconds. It just makes it sound like it's no big deal. This is huge. You are giving people something back that ALS tries to steal from them in every way, and you are giving it back to them. This is just so cool.
Yeah, it just like that is what inspires me, because I know for that like little second, it made the world of difference in those people's lives. It brings tears to my eyes because I know how much those things meant to them.
I love you. I want to give you a big, you know what? This is how, for anyone watching, because I've been asked this question a million times, and I'm not even in your shoes, Kelly, but all the time I ask, how does the chapter do it? How does the staff of the ALS Association face this every day, fall in love with families and lose them time and time again, because there is no cure. We know what the end of this story is going to be every time. This is why you do it. This is why we all do it. And this is how we do it, because it's worth it to make all of their dreams come true.
Yep.
So thank you, Kelly. Thank you for being the rock star that you are. Seriously. Melanie, what has Kelly in the chapter meant to you?
I think Kelly and the chapter have been an what's my boat metaphor that I want to go with? An anchor and a life raft. It was like they kept me together, and they gave me that validation that I needed, and the inspiration and encouragement when I needed it. And I always hear Kelly's voice in my head as I'm dealing with my mom, I could hear her reminding me. So I think, I hope Kelly, that that influence that you have is happening even when we're not together or face to face, even through the computer screen. Like it's sort of always there, in running in the background through my head. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. And I have to give a shout out to Melanie because she has been such an integral part of the group. And the 1 month that she wasn't at the group was so, where's Melanie? Where's Melanie? We miss Melanie. Where's Melanie? That even after her mom passed away, I gave her the option that if she'd like to continue to be a part of the caregiver group is kind of like an honorary co-star leader, because she provides so much to the group, and the group like looked to her as such a mentor, and she chose to come back and kind of be that because she's such a good example of a caregiver, because she was thrown into it in COVID. I mean, what better can you have for an example?
Mm-hmm. And speaking of that, as to take us out, Melanie, do you have any advice? You are the rock star caregiver advocate. Any advice for anyone watching right now that is in your shoes or stepping into your shoes?
I think you should know that you can do it. You're not doing it alone. There's lots of help available for you, but that you're stronger than you think, and that you're not always going to get it right, and it's not always going to be perfect, but that you'll be really glad for the time that you got to spend with your loved one.
I love that. Well, ladies, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to say before we say goodbye to everyone tonight? I know that's a loaded question because there's a million things we want to say. We're going to have you back. So in the moment, anything you want to say?
Come to the caregiver meeting on the second Wednesday of each month. It'll be the second rendition of the Kellie and Melanie show.
Yes.
Come to the caregiver boot camp on November 13th and the 90-90. Remember that.
I can't. Everything's backwards. It throws me off. I can't point. Yes. The 90-90. I love it. Well, ladies, thank you so much. I'm serious when I say this. I'm going to have you guys back because there's so many things I want to pick your brain about. And there's so many amazing things that I want other people to hear because you two have such a wealth of knowledge and inspiration, and we need to share that with more people. So thank you both for everything you've done. I am so happy that you're part of our family, and we'll chat again very soon.
Thanks,
Bye,
Susan.
thank you.
Bye, guys.